ViewState is used to remember the state of the controls when the page is posted back to the server. ASP.NET stores ViewState on the client side in a hidden field in encrypted form. When a page is created on the web server, this hidden control is populated with the state of the controls, and when the page is posted back to the server, this information is retrieved and assigned to controls. You can ask what is meant by postback property. Actually, the server controls post their values for some sort of developing operations, and this is known as postback operation, and the controls used to perform the postback operation are known as, simply enough, the postback controls. QueryString. QueryString provides a simple but limited way of maintaining state information. Using QueryString, we can pass information from one page to another, but most browsers and client devices impose a 255-character limit on the length of the URL. This is the code for retrieving information from the query string. Now, one of the advantages of using QueryString is it will not require postback operation from the server. Now, limitations and disadvantages of using a query string. There's virtually no security with a query string. Anybody can see the information which is in the query string. Also, there's no way to remember the information in a query string after the user leaves the page. Also, there's no support for storing structured data, such as array lists, controls, structures, or classes. Till now, we've discussed about various client-side state management methods. In the next lesson, we'll talk about server-side state management. Server-side state management. Using server-side state controls, we can store information on the server. It has higher security, but we have to use more web server resources. With the help of server-side state management, you can reduce the amount of information sent to the client in order to save the state. There are two states available in server-side state management, and they are session state and application state. Let's start with session state, shall we? Session state is used to store and retrieve user information as a user navigates from one page to another in ASP.NET Web Application. Session object can be used for storing session-specific information that needs to be maintained between server round trips and between requests for pages. The data to store in session state variable is short-lived and sensitive data that is specific to an individual session. This is the code for storing value in session variable. Here we store text box value into session variable name. If you want to store or retrieve the session value in any other page of the current application, then you can use the following code to get the values. Here we store session variable into text box. Right then, let's talk about application state. Application state is used to store information which is shared among users of the ASP.NET Web Application. Application state is stored in the memory of the Windows process, which is processing user requests on the web server. Application state is useful in storing small amounts of often used data. If application state is used for such data instead of frequent trips to the database, it increases the response time performance of the web application. In ASP.NET, application state is an instance of HTTP application state class, and it exposes key value pairs to store information. Coding for storing information in application states is as follows. And the code for retrieving value from application state is as such. Hopefully you are clearer with the state management of ASP.NET. If you implement these concepts in your application, you'll get an effective page structure. Requests, page, and server objects. In this lesson, we're going to discuss about request, page, and server objects. First off, let's start with request object. The process of requesting a web page from server through the browser or any client application is called making a request. A web server sends a requested page with certain information. The request object is responsible for packaging up the information to make it easily accessible to the ASPX application. Page object. The page object contains all the properties and methods for each ASP.NET page that you build. When you run an ASP.NET page, it inherits from the page class in the .NET framework. Server object. This will come under the HTTP server utility object, which provides several helper methods that are used in processing requests. Server object provides two main methods, and they are server.transfer and server.execute. First off, let's talk about server.transfer. This transfers a page from one page directly to the next page without making a round trip back to the client's browser. This provides a faster response with less overhead on the server. Server.transfer does not update the client's URL history list or current URL. Server.transfer and response.redirect both are used to transfer a user from one page to another page. Both are used for the same purpose. Still, there are some differences between the two, and they are as follows. Syntactically, both are different. If you want to transfer the user to a page named wings.aspx, then syntax for both those methods will be as such. Response.redirect involves round trip to the server, whereas server.transfer conserves server resources by avoiding the round trip. If you use server.transfer, then you can directly access the values, controls, and properties of the previous page, which you cannot do with response.redirect. Response.redirect can be used for both ASPX and HTML pages, whereas server.transfer can be used only for ASPX pages and is specific to ASP and ASP.NET. Response.redirect can be used to redirect a user to an external website. Server.transfer can be used only on sites running on the same server. We cannot use server.transfer to redirect the user to a page running on a different server. Server.execute. Server.execute method allows the current ASPX page to execute a specified ASPX page on the same web server. After executing the specified ASPX page, the control transfers back to the original page from which the server.execute method was called. The called ASPX page has access to the form and QueryString collections of the calling page. Hence, you need to set the enable ViewState Mac attribute of the page directive to false on the executed page. Now then, I hope you have a clearer idea about the basic objects used in ASP.NET. In our next lesson, we'll discuss about session and application objects in state management. State management. State management is an important aspect of any web application. Web pages developed in ASP.NET are HTTP-based. The HTTP protocol is a stateless protocol, which means the web server doesn't know whether the request is from the same client. Hence, the pages are destroyed and recreated with each round trip to the server. Therefore, the information will be lost. Hence, the state management is an important aspect in developing web applications. ASP.NET provides two different ways to manage this state on web application, and they are client-side state management and server-side state management. Let's start with client-side state management. Now, what is meant by client-side state management? Well, when the user clicks on a URL or button or server-side control, the information goes from the current page to the server and back to the user browser. Let's see how it remembers the information that is currently on the web page. Well, actually, there's no automatic storage of information on the client side. For this, the developer has to store the information from the post back to the server. In ASP.NET, we can save the state of the current page using four basic methods. They are cookies, hidden fields, ViewState, and QueryStrings. Now, in the next lesson, we're going to discuss different client-side states in greater detail. Cookies and hidden fields. Cookies are a small amount of data which can be stored either at the client side in a text file or the memory of the client browser session. The main advantages of cookies are the information can be persisting on the user computer, and by setting expire property of the cookie, we can automatically terminate the cookie after a certain time. Now, there are some disadvantages, and they are that the user can disable the cookies in their browser, and we cannot store the structured data in cookies. Also, cannot leave sensitive information in cookies. Since the cookies reside on the client's computer, any browser can read the information stored in cookies that you leave on others' computers. The code for creating a cookie is as follows. If you want to set the expire time of cookies to 30 minutes from now, use this code. And if you want to add cookies to the user computer, you can use this code here. If you want to get the information stored in the user's computer using cookies, use this. Now, I hope you've got a clearer idea about cookies and their advantages. Next, we'll discuss hidden fields. Hidden control is the control which does not submit anything on the web page at the client browser, but it can be used to store some information on the page. When the page is submitted to the web server, the content of the hidden field is sent in the HTTP form collection, along with the value of the other control. Hidden field stores a single variable in its value property and must be explicitly added to the web page. ASP.NET provides the HTML input hidden control that offers hidden field functionality. To declare a hidden variable, we can use the following code. To populate the hidden field, we can use this code. And if you want to retrieve the value stored in the hidden field, use this code. We should not store critical information in the hidden field. In the upcoming lesson, we'll talk about ViewState.